Imagine being given up by your parents the moment you're born. Then imagine building the most valuable company in the history of human civilization and being thrown out of it by the people you hired. Then imagine coming back and winning. This is not a story about technology. It's not really even a story about business. It's a story about obsession, about a man who saw the world not as it was, but as it could be, and who refused, at every turn, to accept anything less than the impossible. This is Steve Jobs, and the truth is stranger, darker, and more extraordinary than anything Hollywood could write. February 24th, 1955. San Francisco, California. A young graduate student named Joanne Stiebel gives birth to a boy. She is unmarried. Her family disapproves. She makes the most painful decision of her life and puts him up for adoption. The boy is taken in by Paul and Clara Jobs, a working-class couple in Mountain View, California. They name him Stephen Paul Jobs. Paul Jobs was a machinist. He taught his son that even the parts people never see, the back of a cabinet, the inside of a machine, should be made beautifully, because a craftsman always cares. That lesson would echo through everything Steve Jobs ever built. From an early age, Steve was restless, difficult, and brilliant in ways that frustrated everyone around him. He was bored in class, pulled pranks, and challenged every rule he encountered. But his curiosity was insatiable. He would show up uninvited at the homes of engineers in his neighborhood, demanding they explain how things worked. Most of the time, they did. At 12 years old, he cold-called Bill Hewlett, co-founder of Hewlett-Packard, and asked for spare parts for a project he was building. Hewlett was so impressed, he gave him a summer job. 12 years old. Cold-calling a tech legend. Getting a job. This was not a normal child either. In 1972, Steve Jobs enrolled at Reed College in Portland, Oregon, and dropped out after just 6 months. Not because he wasn't smart enough, but because he felt guilty about the financial strain on his adoptive parents, who had saved everything to send him there. So he stayed on campus, secretly, sleeping on the floor of friends' dorm rooms, returning Coke bottles for food money, and doing something no college would ever teach. He audited a calligraphy class. Just because it was beautiful. No practical reason. Years later, every font on every Mac computer, the first personal computer to have beautiful typography, came from that calligraphy class he took for no reason at all. He spent time in India searching for spiritual meaning. He experimented with Zen Buddhism. He ate strange diets. He cried unexpectedly and often. He was, by all accounts, one of the most emotionally intense people anyone had ever met. But behind all of it, the wandering, the searching, the difficulty, was something that never left him. A burning, unshakable belief that he was going to change the world. 1976. A garage in Los Altos, California. Steve Jobs is 21 years old. His friend Steve Wozniak, a quiet engineering genius, had built something extraordinary, a personal computer. Small enough to sit on a desk. Affordable enough for a normal person to buy. Wozniak wanted to give the design away for free. Jobs saw something different. He saw a product. He saw a company. He saw a revolution. Apple Computer was born on April 1st, 1976. Jobs sold his Volkswagen van. Woz sold his beloved HP calculator. Their starting capital? $1,300. What happened next was unlike anything the technology world had ever seen. Jobs didn't just sell computers. He sold a vision. He told people that technology could be beautiful, intuitive, and human. He made the experience of using a computer feel like art. By 1980, Apple went public. Steve Jobs, 25 years old, became worth over $200 million in a single day. The boy who was given up at birth had just become one of the wealthiest people in America. And then, in the most shocking corporate betrayal in Silicon Valley history, everything fell apart. It was 1985. Jobs had recruited John Sculley, the CEO of Pepsi, to run Apple. He had asked him the most famous question in business history. Do you want to spend the rest of your life selling sugared water, or do you want a chance to change the world? Scully chose to change the world. Then he changed his mind about Jobs. The board voted. Jobs was stripped of his responsibilities, marginalized in the company he had built from a garage. At 30 years old, Steve Jobs was fired from Apple. He would later describe it as the best thing that ever happened to him. But in the moment, it was devastating. "I didn't know what to do for a few months," he said. "I was a very public failure." He could have stopped. He could have taken his millions and disappeared. He did the opposite. He started 2 companies. One was a film animation studio he purchased from George Lucas for $5 million, a little outfit called Pixar. The other was a new computer company called Next. Neither looked like a comeback at the time. But Jobs was playing a longer game than anyone realized. By 1996, Apple was in freefall, losing money, losing relevance. 90 days from bankruptcy. In a desperate move, the board acquired Next, Jobs' company, for $427 million. Steve Jobs walked back into Apple. What he did next is one of the greatest turnarounds in business history. He cut Apple's product line from 350 products down to 10. He brought in Johnny Ive, a quiet British designer, and together they began building things the world had never seen before. The iMac, the iPod, the iTunes Store, the MacBook, the iPhone, the iPad. Each one didn't just change its category. Each one created an entirely new category. In 2007, when Jobs walked on stage and announced the iPhone, describing it as a widescreen iPod, a revolutionary mobile phone, and an internet communicator all in one, the audience laughed with disbelief. He wasn't joking. The iPhone went on to become the most profitable product in the history of commerce. And in August 2018, Apple became the first company in history to reach a $1 trillion valuation. The man they fired came back and built the most valuable company on earth. Steve Jobs was not easy to work with. He was known for his cruelty as much as his genius. He could reduce grown engineers to tears with a single sentence. He once told a team that had worked for months on a project that it was a piece of sh*** and walked out. He denied being the father of his first daughter for years. He parked in handicapped spaces. He returned Christmas gifts because they weren't right. He was, by any measure, a deeply complicated human being. And yet, the things he made changed how billions of people live, work, create, and connect. He believed with total conviction that the people who are crazy enough to think they can change the world are the ones who do. In 2003, he was diagnosed with a rare form of pancreatic cancer. He delayed surgery for 9 months, trying alternative treatments, a decision he later admitted he regretted. He fought for 8 years. He kept working through surgeries, transplants, and treatments that would have stopped most people entirely. On October 5, 2011, Steve Jobs died at the age of 56. The night before, his sister Mona Simpson recalled his last words. He looked past his family, at something they couldn't see, and said, "Oh wow! Oh wow! Oh wow!" The story of Steve Jobs is a story of contradiction, of breathtaking vision and breathtaking cruelty, of someone who was abandoned and who sometimes abandoned others. But it is also a story about what happens when someone refuses to let the world define what is possible. He was given up at birth. He dropped out of college. He was fired from the company he built with his own hands. And he came back and changed everything. The device you may be watching this on right now, the way it looks, the way it feels, the way it fits in your hand, is his fingerprint on the world. He always said the journey was the reward. What a journey it was!